Let's face it, in today's world, the idea of New Year's resolutions is often met with a fair amount of cynicism. Resolutions were made to be broken, right? Whether it's losing weight, or starting an exercise program, or reading the Bible. Most people start with the best of intentions, only to discover by mid-February, if they even make it that long, that they've gotten completely off track. But what if you could work on a resolution in partnership with someone else? That's the beauty of a marriage-related New Year's resolution. In resolving to invest in your marriage, to have a monthly date night, or to set other positive goals for your relationship, you automatically have someone in your corner who is pursuing the same goals and will encourage you in your resolution. Why? Because having a stronger marriage is something couples work on together. It's a resolution that can be accomplished only as a team. Activity. With the idea of new goals and new beginnings fresh in your minds, consider making this a morning date. Rather than going out for dinner, go out for breakfast and talk about setting positive goals for your marriage while you're both fresh and wide awake. If you're typically not a morning person, be sure breakfast is accompanied by lots of coffee or a similarly caffeinated beverage. If breakfast isn't your thing, think about doing another morning activity together, such as working out, playing racquetball, or going for a hike. Questions. Either during your activity or afterward, discuss the following questions. What are some positive goals we can set for our marriage over the next 6 months, the next year? How can we work together to achieve these goals? Is there a specific area you feel God wants us to work on together as a team to make our marriage the best it can be? The best teams are passionate about their goals. If you're going to be part of a Super Bowl championship team, you need to do more than just wear the uniform. You need to be committed to your team's success. Individual players don't win games, teams win games. The same is true in marriage. Being married means doing more than just wearing a wedding ring. Rather, you wear the ring as a symbol of the commitment you made before God and humankind to be united. In every sense of the word, a husband and wife are a team. The Bible reminds us that the body is a unit, though it is made up of many parts, and though all its parts are many, they form one body. So it is with Christ. 1 Corinthians 12:12. And so it is with your marriage. Each of you brings your own personality, experiences, and viewpoints to the table. But at the end of the day, you work together as a single unit. That's the beauty of marital teamwork. Activity. Here's a chance to have some real fun working as a team. Think of some invigorating team-based activities that you and your spouse can work on together. Although date night should typically be reserved for couple time, this might be an occasion to get some other friends involved. Here are just a few possibilities. Go to a karaoke club and sing a duet together. Wow the crowd as you belt out your favorite torch song. Take some ballroom dancing lessons, or if you'd rather just wing it, go find a place that offers ballroom dancing and cut a rug together. Host a game night with some other married couples, rather than resorting to the typical guys versus gals model. Play games in which each married couple works together as a team. Questions. What are some famous teams you admire? Note, we're not just talking sports teams here. What about these famous teams is inspiring? What makes them work well together? What are some practical steps we can take to ensure that we're always working as a team? There is always something new to learn about your spouse. Always. No matter how long you've been married, no matter how much you think you know about the person you married, you haven't even scratched the surface. The goal in marriage, then, is not to learn everything there is to learn about your spouse. We've already established that it isn't possible. It's important, however, to continually be a student of your spouse. This is a lifelong process. You may never know everything there is to know, but it's important to update your knowledge at every opportunity. That same sense of discovery you had during your time of premarital dating is possible now. You just need to remain curious. Activity. During this date, what you say, what you discuss, may be more important than the activity itself. So feel free to engage in a typical dating activity, such as going out for a nice dinner or playing a round of miniature golf or just taking a romantic walk in the park. On the other hand, you may consider creating an activity that stimulates your curiosity. For example, you could plan your date around the famous icebreaker game, 2 Truths and a Lie. Each of you writes down 3 statements about yourself, 2 of which are true and 1 of which isn't. Then during your date, exchange your statements and see if your spouse can figure out which statement about you isn't true. Of course, under normal circumstances, we wouldn't advocate that you and your spouse lie to each other. If the thought of lying in this way, even in the name of good fun, is uncomfortable to you, simply create a quiz about yourself that your spouse can answer during the date. You'd be surprised how challenging such an activity can be, even with seemingly obvious questions like, "What is my favorite food?" "What is my favorite movie?" or "What is my favorite color?" See how many questions your spouse can answer before he or she gets tripped up. Questions. After completing the 2 Truths and a Lie game or taking your quiz, discuss the following questions. What one thing did you learn about me tonight that you didn't know before? What are some practical steps we can take to stay current with each other? What does it mean for us to be students of each other? Do you make an effort to be kind to each other simply for the sake of being kind? Married couples often fall into the routine of doing nice things for one another only when it's absolutely necessary, or even worse, as a way of coercing their partner into something. For example, there's nothing wrong with a gift on your spouse's birthday, but let's face it, that's what is expected of you. The type of kindness we have in mind is the self-sacrificing, giving, just because I love you type of kindness that isn't coercive and doesn't expect something in return. These don't have to be huge, expensive events. They can be simple, everyday activities that convey your love and appreciation to your spouse. It might be helping put the kids to bed, or even handling the bedtime routine all by yourself without being asked to do so, even though that's typically your spouse's responsibility. It might be calling to remind your spouse that you're praying for him or her, or even praying together over the phone on a day when an important meeting is taking place at work. In marriage, the most important acts of kindness are those unprompted, simple gestures of love that say, "I love you, I'm thinking about you, and I care about you," on a daily basis. Activity. Go out for dinner and then pick another fun date activity, perhaps bowling or visiting an amusement park or an arcade. Over the course of the date, make every effort to be extra thoughtful and courteous toward your spouse. Enjoy the experience of simply being kind to each other. Don't be disingenuous about it, but don't be afraid to lay it on thick either. Questions. After your activity is over, go somewhere quiet and enjoy a time of conversing and connecting. Discuss the following questions. What are some of the little things I did for you on our date that you appreciated? Over the course of a typical week, how do I demonstrate my love for you? What else can I do in the future? Be sure to keep your answers uplifting and affirming. The idea isn't to criticize your spouse in the areas where he or she is falling short. The goal is to affirm what he or she is already doing, to exchange ideas, and to offer helpful suggestions for the future. Since it was first published in 1990, millions of readers have been impacted by Dr. John Trent and Dr. Gary Smalley's book, The Blessing, a shout-out to Greg's dad. Based on numerous examples in Scripture, including those involving God, the Father blessing his children, the blessing includes 5 elements. 1. Meaningful and appropriate touch. This is key to communicating warmth, acceptance, and affirmation. 2. Spoken words. To see the blessing grow in someone's life, we Need to verbalize our message. 2. Blessing-filled words communicate genuine acceptance. 3. Expressing high value. In blessing one of his sons, Isaac said, "His scent is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed." Genesis 27:27. Word pictures are a powerful way of communicating acceptance. 4. Picturing a special future. Throughout Scripture, God goes to great lengths to assure us of our present relationship with Him and of the ocean full of blessings in store for us as His children. 4. We need to picture just such a special future for our loved ones if we are serious about giving them our blessing. 5. An active commitment. Words alone cannot communicate the blessing. They need to be backed with a commitment to do everything possible to help the one blessed be successful. Activity. If you're not familiar with the concept of the blessing, track down a copy of the original book, or better yet, find The Gift of the Blessing, 6, which includes a chapter written exclusively with married couples in mind. If possible, read the relevant sections before your date so you'll be familiar with the concepts by the time your date night arrives. Then, either over dinner or at your favorite coffee shop or in another quiet location, host your own 2-person blessing discussion group. Questions. As you discuss incorporating the blessing into your marriage, be sure to address the following questions. Did you feel blessed by your parents? Why or why not? What do I do that blesses you? How can we further incorporate the 5 elements of the blessing into our marriage? A Valentine's Day. It's a holiday that can paralyze men with the fear of not living up to their wife's expectations. However, our culture makes it easy to celebrate this holiday devoted to romantic love. Face it, in its modern incarnation, Valentine's Day is essentially a shopping tradition kept alive by florists and greeting card and candy companies. Considering the fact that Valentine chocolates start appearing on store shelves literally the day after Christmas, it's amazing that so many men still fail to remember Valentine's Day after the nearly 2 months of marketing that precede it. Now, don't get us wrong. We're not anti-Valentine's Day. Any holiday that encourages couples to turn toward each other and devote attention to the romantic aspects of their relationship is fine by us. However, when it comes to married couples, Valentine's Day can create a problem. Thriving relationships need far more than 1 day per year devoted to expressions of romantic love. If you're saving all your romantic gestures for February 14th, while the rest of the year is just the same old, your relationship likely won't survive. It's as simple as that. Your spouse needs to be reminded, reassured, and encouraged in your love for him or her on a regular and consistent basis, all year, every year. Activity. If a romantic dinner on February 14th is your annual tradition, by all means, go for it. However, you might also consider doing something outside the norm. While everyone else is dining by candlelight, perhaps the 2 of you could play laser tag or go fishing. Who says activities like these can't be romantic? Sometimes doing something new, exciting, and unexpected can create more vivid memories than repeating the same thing year after year. Questions. Because Valentine's Day is an annual event, it presents a great opportunity for reminiscing. Either during your activity or in a quiet location afterward, take some time to remember and reflect upon your previous Valentine's Days together. Discuss the following questions. Do you remember our first Valentine's Day together? What did we do last year for Valentine's Day? Let's see if we can make a list by year of all our Valentine's Day dates up to this point. It's a common theme for many married couples. He likes to do guy stuff, like playing sports, collecting baseball cards, or going hunting. She likes girly stuff, like scrapbooking, sewing, or blogging about bargains. Certainly, some of these activities speak to the innate differences between males and females. It would be a serious mistake, however, for couples to assume that every moment of free time should be relegated to his interests and her interests, and never the twain shall meet. Having common hobbies can help couples deepen their sense of intimacy, connection, and especially friendship. When was the last time you thought about your spouse as your friend, someone you enjoy spending time with, and with whom you can engage in mutually satisfying pursuits? If husbands and wives have a firm grasp of their roles as partners, lovers, or parents, but fail to understand what it means to be friends, they're missing out on a key component of marriage. The Bible places the concept of friendship front and center in King Solomon's depiction of romantic love. "This is my lover, this is my friend," Song of Songs 5:16. Activity. Choosing a new restaurant is a fantastic way for husbands and wives to develop a common interest. Find a restaurant or a type of cuisine that neither of you has tried before. You'll experience something new together for the first time, and who knows, you both just might like it. If you have time prior to your date, Google date night ideas, hobbies for married couples, or a similar phrase to identify potential activities that you might enjoy together. The idea is not only to select a new and exciting activity for your date, but also to identify a hobby or pastime the two of you as a couple can return to again and again as a shared interest. The possibilities are endless, but here are just a few activities you might consider: cycling, bird-watching, co-authoring a blog, collecting antiques or artwork, composing music together or jamming on instruments, photography, clay modeling or pottery, scuba diving, horseback riding, learning a form of self-defense, treasure hunting with a metal detector, gardening or landscaping, cooking or volunteering at church or with a local social service agency. Questions. After your activity, discuss the following questions. What were some of your favorite hobbies as a child? Have any of those hobbies retained your interest as an adult? What are some of the key things that make your favorite hobbies enjoyable? Do you prefer activities that are more physical in nature or those that provide a mental challenge? What hobby would you pursue if time and money weren't factors? The final and most important question for you to discuss is this: did both of you truly enjoy your shared experience? Remember, the purpose of a shared interest isn't to let one spouse be a martyr for the sake of the other, suffering through something that he or she truly doesn't enjoy, but to identify and cultivate activities that both spouses genuinely enjoy doing together. According to a 2009 Department of Transportation survey, the average adult spent almost a full hour in the car every day. We can all relate to that, right? Whether it's the daily commute to and from work, a hectic schedule of taxiing kids to school, and other activities or running errands, driving is a significant part of our everyday experience. The question is, how do you use that time? When it comes to drive time with your spouse, embrace the opportunity to connect through conversation. It's about enjoying the drive rather than simply getting through it. You may be just making a quick trip to the grocery store, but those few moments in the car, something that seems so basic and routine, represent an opportunity for you and your spouse to share your feelings and connect. That's windshield time, whether it's your regular date or any other time you and your spouse spend together in the car. It's not just about the destination, it's about the journey. Activity. To help you get more comfortable with the idea of connecting with your spouse while driving, the majority of this month's date will be spent in your car. Just drive and enjoy having the extra time to connect with each other. Here are some ideas. Don't be afraid to venture outside the city limits. Drive to a neighboring city for dinner. Are there any scenic byways in your area? Are there out-of-the-way back roads known for their sightseeing potential? Explore the world around you. If you'll be driving after dark, find out whether there are any roads that overlook the city lights. There's nothing like taking in a romantic cityscape. Questions. Remember, The purpose of windshield time is to learn how to connect with meaningful conversation while you're in the car, not to drive for driving's sake. Here are some possible questions to discuss. What are some ways I can show you I'm interested in you and want to know you better? What are some ways I can more effectively communicate that I love you? Did you go on family drives as a child? How did that time make you feel? Out of all the date nights we've experienced together thus far, which one has been your favorite? Why? Even beat, poet Jack Kerouac understood that human sexuality is special and sacred. It involves not only the body, but the soul. It represents the pinnacle of human connection and is not to be taken lightly. If that's the case, then why is it so difficult for married couples to enjoy a thriving sexual relationship as the years go by? We may believe in our heads that sex with our spouse is important, but it's incredibly difficult to give it the priority it deserves. When we do find the time, the experience is often routine and mundane, just another item to check off the list. One study found that due to jobs, kids, hobbies, family responsibilities, and other factors, the average married couple spends just 4 minutes a day alone together. 4 minutes. That's barely enough time to say hello, let alone engage in meaningful physical intimacy. And that's what this date is all about, intimacy, of which sex is only one expression. Dictionary.com defines intimacy as a close, familiar, and usually affectionate or loving personal relationship with another person or group. Did you catch that? Closeness, familiarity, affection, love. Isn't that what marriage is all about? Activity. Order in and enjoy a great meal and conversation in the comfort of your own home. Light some candles and put out a tablecloth, even if you'll be eating only out of your to-go containers. Light candles in the bedroom, the living room, and other areas where you'll be spending time as well. Break out your wedding album or video and reminisce about the special events of that day. Celebrate the journey that has brought you from that day to today. Put on some romantic music that will help set a relaxed romantic mood. Even though you won't be leaving the house, be sure to put effort into looking attractive for your spouse. Questions. Asking each other questions. That's not very sexy, is it? It certainly can be. Take turns talking with your spouse about the physical features you find particularly appealing in him or her. Be specific. And what about non-physical characteristics? Are you attracted to your spouse's sense of humor, intellect, compassionate heart? Let him or her know. Be sure to flavor these conversations with plenty of cuddling, kissing, and so on. Engage in non-sexual touching, such as back rubs and foot massages. Enjoy being in close physical proximity without feeling the need to jump right into the main event. As the evening has progressed, hopefully you and your spouse have begun to feel closer and more connected. This closeness, this intimacy, has likely produced in both of you a desire to connect sexually. As you and your spouse enter this phase of the evening, ask yourselves the following questions. Is there anything specific we can do to spice up our sex life and add some variety? How can I be more giving toward you during sex? Keep in mind that the idea isn't to engage in activities that are uncomfortable for either partner. If you try something new, or that hasn't been a part of your repertoire for a while, make sure it's mutually agreed upon and edifying to both partners. The cliché is that after sex, the man will roll over and go to sleep while the woman lies awake, wishing for additional time to cuddle, talk, and connect. Husbands, here's your chance to shatter that stereotype. Spend some additional time connecting emotionally and physically with your wife. According to Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, cherish means to hold dear, to regard someone or something as a treasure. This comes naturally to those who are caught up in the first flush of youthful romantic love. But feelings can fade over time, and when that happens, cherishing can survive and thrive only if it graduates to a higher level. It needs to be lifted. out of the realm of mere emotion and transformed into a steady, consistent attitude. It has to become an intentional act of the will. I, Greg, saw the beauty of the cherish list in action a few years ago when Erin and I spent Thanksgiving at my parents' home in Branson, Missouri. At one point, my folks got into a huge argument. Yes, it happens in the elder Smalley household. One of the things I admire about my parents' marriage is that they don't claim to have a perfect relationship, and they're not afraid to disagree. This particular disagreement was a doozy, to the point that my folks retired to opposite ends of the house for a while. I ventured into my dad's study later to see how he was doing. I found him sitting behind his computer and assumed he was catching up on the news or weather. Instead, he was reading a document he had created called Why Norma is So Valuable. That's my mom's name. The list contained literally hundreds of words and phrases describing my mom's value. It was astonishing. I asked him about it, and he said, "Years ago, I started a list of reasons why your mom is so valuable. When I'm upset with her, or when we've had a fight, instead of sitting here thinking about how hurt or frustrated I am, I make myself read through this list. The more I read, the faster I realize that you have an amazing mom." That's the power of cherishing your mate. Activity. Before your date, each of you should take some time alone to make a list of the things you value about your spouse. Include his or her personality traits, character qualities, spirituality, caring behaviors, accomplishments, and even physical characteristics. Write them down and take the list with you on your date. Then, over dinner or in a quiet location, share your cherish lists with each other. Don't simply hand your list to your spouse and expect him or her to read it in silence. Instead, actually read your list aloud. After you've shared your list, give it to your spouse and, if time allows, consider going to a scrapbook or craft store to get some stickers or even picture frames to adorn your lists. Keeping the list you've been given in a wallet or purse, on the nightstand, or in another easily seen location will remind you regularly of the reasons your spouse cherishes you. Questions. After you've exchanged your cherish lists, answer the following questions. What was your favorite part of the evening? What is one thing you learned about me tonight that you didn't know before? What is one way I can let you know I cherish you during the coming week? Batman knows that being a superhero involves more than just talking about the importance of truth and justice. It's not simply believing in the right things. At some point, those beliefs and feelings have to translate into something tangible. This principle applies to marriage as well. You may have deep feelings of love for your spouse in your heart, and you may even express those feelings in words on a regular basis. But at some point, those feelings need to be put into action. To express your love in tangible ways is to nourish your spouse. It's closely related to cherishing. Both disciplines are drawn from the Apostle Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus when he wrote, "No one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church." Ephesians 5:29 NASB. Cherishing, as described in the previous date, is an attitude that involves recognizing your mate's inherent value. Nourishing, on the other hand, is an action in which you treat your spouse in ways that show you value him or her. During the previous date, you developed a list of the traits and characteristics you admire about your spouse and shared that list with him or her. Now you're going to breathe life into those thoughts and emotions and nourish each other. Activity. Either over dinner or in a quiet location, talk about ways you can nourish each other spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Get a pen and paper and write down your ideas, starting with the phrase, "I feel loved when you..." For example, "I feel loved when you pray with me, provide positive affirmation, act curious about me, show affection, have fun and laugh with me." Once you've completed your lists, exchange them and talk about them. If there's time, you might engage in a simple activity that will help you put the idea of nourishing into practice. For example, go bowling and be sure to provide each other with lots of positive affirmation, even if your spouse's ball continually ends up in the gutter. Go to a movie and use the time as an opportunity to be affectionate. Hold hands, put your arm around your wife, etc. Go to a secluded location, even if just sitting in the car, and pray together. Make an effort to connect on a spiritual level. Questions. After your activity, discuss the following questions. What was your favorite part of the evening? What was one thing you learned about me on our date? What are some other ways I can nourish you in the days and weeks ahead? Do you and your spouse feel as if you're growing together spiritually? Many couples not only struggle to build physical, emotional, and relational intimacy in their marriages, hence the need for regular date nights, but they also discover that it's tough to be spiritually intimate with each other. The reasons for this are similar to the reasons why it's tough to build intimacy in other areas. Limited time, a too busy lifestyle, the demands of child-rearing, career, and yes, even church. Most of us struggle to have just a few minutes of personal prayer and Bible reading on a regular basis, let alone find time to pray or study scripture with our spouses. Like cultivating romance with your beloved, fostering spiritual growth, both individually and in your marriage, takes discipline and intentionality. It won't just happen. For the purposes of this date, we'll assume that you and your spouse are roughly in the same ballpark when it comes to your Christian walk. The goal of this date will be to help you encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Hebrews 10:25. Activity. Do you view your dates as opportunities to invite God into your activities, and not just with a quick "thank you, Lord, for this food" before dinner? Your dates represent a wonderful opportunity for you to dig deep and connect spiritually as a couple. For this date, consider one of the following activities to help direct your thoughts heavenward. Attend a Christian concert, visit a museum or exhibit dedicated to religious art, Christian iconography, or biblical history. Go for a hike and consider God's handiwork in nature. Reach out to someone in Jesus' name. Volunteer at a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter. Questions. The real meat of this date will become evident in your discussion. After your activity, explore some of the following. Questions. How would you share your testimony with me if I were a new acquaintance? What one person in your life has been most influential in shaping your view of God? How can I pray for you? What have you been learning during your times of personal prayer and scripture reading? What recent sermons have impacted you at church? Most important, ask yourselves this: how can we continue to help each other grow spiritually on a regular basis? The purpose of this date isn't to have a one-time spiritual discussion and then return to your regular routine. It's about making spiritual intimacy a regular feature of your marriage. Create a game plan for how you can both devote regular, consistent time to growing together spiritually, as well as encouraging and building each other up. See 1 Thessalonians 5:11. We've already established that one of the best ways for couples to build intimacy is through reminiscing. Remembering and celebrating special times in your relationship are very important. Often when we think of reminiscing, we tend to frame it in the context of remembering those really big events from marriage. Our wedding day, the birth of a child, a dream vacation, and so on. But what about the little things? Sometimes the sweetest, most tender memories are those that happen during unplanned moments that may seem unremarkable to the casual observer. Think about some of those times in your own marriage, doing the dishes or other household chores together, working in the garden together, or just sitting on the front step on warm summer evenings watching the neighborhood wind down. These are typical daily occurrences, but when viewed from the present looking back, they can carry an added sense of peace and connection between you and your spouse. Embrace this date as an opportunity for you and your spouse to remember some of your happiest times together, whether big events or simple everyday activities. As C.S. Lewis wrote, "A pleasure is full-grown only when it is remembered." Activity. We live in a mobile society, so statistically, the chances aren't great that you still live near the old haunts you visited during your dating or courtship. Some couples move several times within their first few years of marriage. Nevertheless, if you do still have access to some of the places you frequented during the early years of your relationship, why don't you visit them again? And even if you've moved away, you can improvise. Maybe you had a favorite coffee shop in Des Moines when you first met during your college years. Now that you live in Sacramento, see if you can find a similar coffee shop that will help you relive that experience. Questions. What are some favorite things we used to do as a couple early in our marriage? Can we start doing some of those things again, even with the realities of our busier lifestyle? Name 2 special memories you cherish that have nothing to do with the big events of our relationship, the wedding, childbirth, etc. Why are those memories so special to you? Do you ever wonder why so many personal ads from both men and women seek a partner with a good sense of humor, or someone who loves to laugh? Because laughter is attractive. This is true at the beginning of a relationship, and it's true after years of marriage. An article in Scientific American notes that, when seeking a mate, men desire women who laugh at their jokes, whereas women prefer men who can make them laugh. After a relationship is established, the role of laughter changes, but it's no less important. For example, women in committed relationships value laughter and humor for their ability to relieve tense discussions. 2. Consider these important benefits associated with laughter. Laughter contributes to normal blood flow. The University of Maryland conducted a study in which some subjects watched a funny movie while others watched a drama. Afterward, those who had watched the comedy demonstrated normal blood flow in their vessels, while those who had watched the drama had tensed up, restricting blood flow. Laughter boosts your immunity. Studies show that laughter may boost the body's ability to fight infection. Laughter contributes to better relaxation and satisfying sleep. You probably know from experience that laughter can help improve relationships as well. Think of some of your favorite times with family and friends. Chances are many of those memories involve moments of fun and laughter. The ability to laugh together helps us bond with one another. Activity. The success of this date depends on your knowing each other well enough to understand what your partner finds funny. It could be something as simple as sitting across the table from each other and telling funny stories. Or it could involve something more adventurous, such as going to a comedy club or a funny movie. You might also consider visiting a bookstore, or going online and finding a book of clean jokes or Mad Libs. Questions. Ask each other these questions. What makes you laugh? What about our activity did you find particularly funny? Also talk about the art of laughing at yourself. Are there some silly or funny quirks about your spouse that you find irresistibly funny? Maybe her set of 1950s vintage hair curlers, or his Snoopy boxer shorts. Be sure to pick things that are light-hearted and fun. Don't laugh at your spouse's expense or be cruel. When was the last time you felt like you played? For most of us, playtime is a vestige of childhood. We left it behind when we entered the world of adulthood. Respectable folks who are raising kids, holding down jobs, serving at church, and making meaningful contributions to society don't play, do they? After all, the Apostle Paul himself said, "When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me." 1 Corinthians 13:11. Harumph! We certainly don't. Question the authority of Paul's words, which are the inspired word of God. But if that verse hangs over your head as an admonition against having fun or taking time to play and recreate, then we'd suggest that 1 Corinthians 13:11 doesn't mean quite what you think it means. Within reason, there's nothing wrong with responsible, upstanding adults having fun and engaging in leisurely activities from time to time. These pursuits are actually essential to your emotional and mental health, and there's certainly a case to be made for husbands and wives enjoying playtime together on occasion. That's what this date is all about. Activity. You can both probably name some things you like to do when it comes to leisure activities. You're certainly free to select something from your current list of favorites that you'd both find enjoyable. But to make things more interesting, why not consider something you haven't done for a while, maybe for a long while, maybe not even since you were kids? Talk about some of your favorite childhood playtime activities, and then consider incorporating one or more of them into your date. Here are some examples. Go to a ball game. Make sure to eat lots of peanuts and ice cream. Go to an amusement park. Load up on hot dogs and cotton candy, but ride the roller coaster first. Find an old board game or even a set of marbles and play a few rounds together. Have a tea party, complete with fancy cups and saucers. Instead of serving tea to your dollies, serve each other. Questions. This date presents a great opportunity to dig a little deeper into any preconceptions you may have about leisure time. Discuss the following questions. What were some of your favorite things to play as a child? How did your family view playtime? Was it frowned upon or encouraged? Read Ecclesiastes chapter 3 together. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. Verse 1. Then discuss these questions. Do you think leisure time fits into this passage somewhere? How can we be more intentional about including reasonable amounts of playtime in our schedule? In 2011, the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that the amount of time people, 15 years of age and older, engaged in a sports or exercise activity on an average day in the United States was 18 minutes. But the time people spent watching TV on an average day was almost 10 times that amount. While it's certainly true that many Americans seem to have an aversion to physical activity and eschew it altogether, others carry exercise to the opposite extreme. A study in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, for example, found that while people who exercise regularly enjoy tremendous health benefits, those who train hard for triathlons, ultramarathons, and other extreme events run a much greater risk of suffering serious heart damage. There has to be a happy medium somewhere, right? It's somewhere between having a heart attack because you're a couch potato and having a heart attack because you're an extreme sports junkie. Why not consider making exercise a shared activity? If you typically go to a gym to work out, take your spouse along this time. Teach your spouse your workout routine. If time and circumstances allow, do something more ambitious. Try something you haven't done before, such as rock climbing or kayaking. If you'd like to engage in something more long-term together, consider training for a half marathon or registering for a local charity run. Bonus activity. Many people use fast-paced music to exercise. When you have some free time, create a workout playlist together that includes some of your and your spouse's favorite workout songs. Then make sure the playlist is available on both of your devices. This is a great way to be reminded of your spouse the next time you're working out on your own. Questions. After your activity, and perhaps a shower and a bottle of Gatorade, discuss the following questions. How important is physical fitness to you? How can we encourage each other and our kids in the pursuit of a balanced approach to physical fitness, not too lax and not too extreme? During our physical activity, what was one thing you learned about me that you didn't know before? What will your marriage look like 1 year from now? How about 2 years, 10 years? At the beginning of this chapter, you enjoyed a New Year's date, during which you looked ahead to the coming year and set goals for your relationship and your marriage. Now it's time to take that same concept and cast a longer-term vision for the future. This process isn't about making concrete plans or administrating the next decade of your relationship. Carrying this concept too far will only lead to frustration. And besides, it's not biblical. The years ahead in your marriage will bring many unexpected blessings and many unexpected trials. They will be filled with events and occurrences for which you simply couldn't have planned. That's part of the deal. It's also one of the reasons you made a commitment on your wedding day to love each other, for better or for worse. You simply don't know what forms the better and the worse will take until they reveal themselves in the course of God's good timing. What you can do, though, is set goals for your relationship that will help you grow closer and more intimate. Throughout the remaining years of your marriage, through the good and bad times that are sure to come, together you can embrace God's awesome promise. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Activity. For your New Year's date, we recommended that you engage in a morning activity, such as going out for breakfast or taking an invigorating hike. We'd like to suggest a morning activity for this date as well. In our experience, thinking, praying and casting a vision for the future are easier to do under sunny skies at the start of a new day than they are in the dark of night. So get up, go outdoors, and breathe in the possibilities. Questions. After your activity, sit down and talk about your future together. How do we envision our future together? What aspects of our relationship do we want to enhance together on the road ahead? You might even consider writing a marriage mission statement together. Talk about your shared vision and values for your relationship, and then craft a brief, simple statement together that encapsulates those values. For example, we will pursue intimacy with God and with each other for the sake of our children, the world around us, and the glory of God. One of the points we've been trying to make throughout this book is that in addition to carving out time for dating, husbands and wives have the opportunity to build intimacy through their everyday activities. It's true, doing household chores doesn't automatically bring to mind romance. But there's no reason these activities have to be routine and mundane. They're mindless chores only if you allow them to be. So pick something around the house that needs doing and do it. But do it together and make it fun. Here's an example from our own experience. One time when we were folding laundry together, Erin went up to get some more dirty clothes from the kids' rooms. While she was upstairs, the washing machine finished and I, Greg, went to unload it. I noticed our 5-year-old daughter standing next to me, begging to help. A devilish plan formed in my mind. Without really considering the consequences or possible dangers, I talked my daughter into hiding in the empty dryer. I then waited for Erin. When she returned, she dropped the dirty clothes into the laundry basket and took the clean load out of the washing machine. I silently peeked around the corner and watched her move toward the dryer. When Erin opened the door to throw in the wet clothes, our daughter screamed and grabbed her arm. It was awesome. Erin jumped about 4 feet in the air and ran out of the laundry room screaming. I'll spare you the ugly details. Let's just say that I ended up doing the rest of the laundry by myself. But you know what? It turned a mundane chore into something fun that we still laugh about today, even Erin. Activity. Paint a room, put up wallpaper, install carpet, clean out the basement. Anything that will spruce up your house. Have fun investing in the beauty of your home, making it a fun and inviting space that lends itself to building happy memories. Turn what could be a mundane chore or a looming responsibility into a fun chance to connect. And here's something that will definitely make the process more interesting and appealing. At the end of your project, you'll likely be dirty. You may have paint all over your face, or grime in your hair, or you may just be good and sweaty. Why don't you resolve to help each other clean up after your project is finished and after the kids are in bed? Perhaps you can take a hot bath or shower together to help scrub all those hard-to-reach places on your partner. Then you can head to bed to massage all the sore muscles your spouse developed during the project. Who knows what other activities might come to mind as you endeavor to unwind from your house beautifying project. Questions. As you work on your home improvement project, share memories of your childhoods and the roles that your living spaces played in those memories. Ask each other these questions. What specific rooms, pieces of furniture, colors, or designs made an impression on you in your childhood home? What special memories do you have of your living space as a child? How important is our home environment now to creating good memories for us and our children? Communication is a key ingredient in any healthy marriage, and one of the most important components of good communication is listening. The Bible reminds us that we are to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. James 1:19. The simple act of listening, of actually hearing and absorbing what your spouse is saying, conveys several important messages. It signifies that you want to understand your spouse not just in terms of the words being used, but in terms of the feelings behind those words. Listening also helps you validate your spouse. As a rule, your mate will only desire to communicate with you to the degree that he or she feels heard and understood. Finally, listening helps you develop empathy for your spouse. Empathy goes beyond, "I understand what you're feeling," and says, "I feel what you're feeling." Sounds very, diagnostic. Are we going to break the rules you set forth and start administrating our dates? Don't worry, we're not going to get all marriage counselor on you. For this date, pick a fun activity that you both enjoy, such as going out for a nice dinner, bowling, to a coffee shop, or to the ballet, or go see a movie or a play that you can discuss afterward, so that you can put those communication skills to work. As always, have fun. Questions. Even within the context of a fun date, there's no reason why you can't talk about your marital communication skills in an uplifting, positive manner. After your activity, talk about ways you can communicate more effectively. This isn't a time to berate or criticize your spouse. It's simply an opportunity to invest in healthy communication, which will in turn deepen your intimacy. Ask yourselves, what are some ways we can more effectively incorporate understanding, validation, and empathy into our communication as a couple? Being busy all day, every day robs us of quality time with our families. It erects a barrier to important couple time and intimacy. Rushing headlong from one commitment to the next creates stress, which can become overwhelming and even debilitating. In fact, WebMD reports that stress contributes to headaches, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, asthma, and depression, among other problems. Studies show that stress-related ailments and complaints comprise between 75 and 90% of all doctor's office visits. You also need to know that if you're living at a frantic pace, you're potentially doing damage to your kids as well. How's that for a guilt trip? A Finnish study found that the children of parents who suffer from burnout are more likely to suffer from burnout themselves. This is really just common sense. We already know that we have the greatest influence on our kids by what we show them, rather than what we tell them. For the sake of our marriages and our kids, we must create space in our lives for a little downtime. Activity. Here's your chance to do something spontaneous and relaxed. Whatever you do, make sure you allow plenty of time beforehand so you're not rushing to your destination. You're defeating the purpose if you have to hurry up and relax. The activity itself will depend on what the two of you find especially soothing. But here are a few ideas. Get a couples massage from a reputable therapist. Many Middle Eastern restaurants serve patrons in the traditional style, i.e., sitting on the floor and reclining on pillows, and so on. See if you can find a Moroccan, Afghan, or similar restaurant that offers this relaxing feature. Stay home and enjoy the feeling of not having to go anywhere. Enjoy a hot bath together or some time in the hot tub. Put on some relaxing music. Cuddle in front of the fireplace. Questions. As you relax and unwind together, discuss the following. Questions. How can we create margin in our lives? Dr. Richard Swenson defines margin as the space between our load and our limits. Margin is the gap between rest and exhaustion, the space between breathing freely and suffocating. Are there unnecessary commitments we can cut out? To improve our family's health and vitality, how can we model healthy limits to each other and to our kids? The word encourage literally means to make courageous. It's lifting a person up and affirming him or her to the point that he or she says, "I can do this," in the face of something that might otherwise seem too challenging. That's a wonderful picture of what happens in marriage, isn't it? Throughout your relationship, you'll face many struggles, whether unemployment, illness, disease, bankruptcy, child-rearing challenges, or just everyday hurts and disappointments. There will be many good times too, of course. The point is that in marriage, the hills and valleys are easier to take when you have someone in your corner. Out-of-control kids and overwhelming credit card bills can either tear you apart or pull you closer together. It all depends on your ability to tackle these challenges with a united front. Husbands and wives can encourage each other on a date by helping him or her try something new. Have you ever wanted to try something but were too nervous or afraid? Perhaps the activity itself appeals to you, but you've never taken the plunge because you lack confidence. You may feel you just don't have what it takes. It could be a demanding physical activity or something like public speaking or even dancing. If you're willing to be a little adventurous, this date will allow you to indulge that desire as a team, encouraging each other along the way. Activity. If time and budget allow, don't be afraid to go for the gusto here. Try something challenging. Don't put yourselves in any danger, of course, but try to find an activity that lies outside your normal comfort zone. And as you did, with the teamwork date earlier, focus on completing it together, offering lots of affirmation to your partner. Here are some possible activities. Going skydiving, singing karaoke, participating in a poetry night at a local venue, riding the scariest, most heart-attack-inducing roller coaster you can find. Questions. After your activity, bring the principles of encouragement back to the real world. You might not jump out of an airplane every day, but you will face challenging situations, whether dealing with unruly kids or with hostile employees or co-workers. Ask your spouse, how can I encourage you as you face upcoming challenges? What do you dread during the week that I can help you face? Traditions are among the bedrocks of family life. When you read the title of this date, it's likely that a few of your own family traditions immediately popped into your head. Attending the midnight service on Christmas Eve, spending a midsummer weekend at the lake, going on a father-son hunting trip in the fall. Whatever they are, your family likely has a handful of special traditions that you hold dear. But what about traditions related specifically to your marriage? Are there any special customs you and your spouse share and treasure? We're not talking about yearly observances like your anniversary or birthdays, although those are important. We're talking about unique events that are important only to the two of you. Things that other folks don't necessarily understand. Maybe it's having a weekend getaway, just the two of you, at a favorite nearby destination. Or perhaps it's something as simple as going out for coffee on the first Saturday morning of every month. Whatever the details, maintaining special husband-wife traditions is a great way to build intimacy. Activity. If you have a cherished couples-only tradition you enjoy, center your date around it. Go out for a nice dinner and plan your next weekend at the mountain chalet. Do you put a complex puzzle together every New Year's Eve? Go to the store now, a few months early, and pick out the puzzle. If you don't have any special traditions as a couple, why not use this opportunity to start one? The possibilities are limited only by your imagination. Questions. As you engage in your activity, discuss the following questions. Did you have special traditions in your family growing up? What were they? What do you remember most about them? How can we create and maintain traditions for our marriage